Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we're handling a big topic, and it's gay representation in media, getting better or worse. This idea, as many of my ideas do, came from a discussion with some friends about how gay people are portrayed. So, some backstory. Many years ago in the 1930s, basically a law in America made it so that depictions of homosexuality had to be very carefully represented, and it was explicitly represented badly. You weren't allowed to represent gay figures in a positive way or an accepting way. Like, it had to be by the book, by design. And thankfully, we don't live in that world anymore. You can go back and look at several iconic movies that involve the antagonist, the bad guy, being queer, and that was one of the things that made him inherently bad, or her inherently bad. And this discussion eventually and inevitably ran into, well, how is being gay represented now in the 21st century? And in general, I think it has wildly improved, but we are still tokens in many ways and shapes and forms. And oftentimes it feels like certain characters are made gay, for lack of a better word. They are put in there as a convenient way of saying, look, we accept. Look at this depiction of love. Look at this. I know you might be shocked to hear this, but it is still quite rare to have a main character being gay. And if you are like me and you consume gay media, you might go, what do you mean? Like, we have Heartstoppers and Young Royals, and, you know, there's lots of characters that center around being gay. And it's true, there are some, and sometimes the representation feels real and it feels accepting, and it feels like a good introduction for many people who might not be aware or accepting of gay people. A good example of this is that my grandparents became a lot more accepting after watching shows that had gay characters, like Modern Family. However, there is still work to do, and by no means are we at a point where representation is as good as it's going to get, because I think there's a lot of room to improve it. Like I said, we have improved marketably from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. In the West, we have quite a bit more acceptance. Obviously, I still feel weird about holding a guy's hand walking down a street, or, you know, giving a little peck on the cheek at a restaurant or something. Like, it's just something I wouldn't do, because I don't feel as though I'm surrounded by people who just innately accept it. And that shrug of the shoulders I just did is really important, because I would like to get to a point where the gay characters being gay is just a shrug. It's just, oh, okay, cool, continue. What's this character's biggest fear? What's this character's hope and desire? And hopefully those things are not tied exclusively with being gay, because a lot of the representation we have right now centers around the character struggling with their identity, struggling with being accepted. And I get that that will always be a very big part of being gay and coming to terms with who you are. However, it is really nice when you watch a film or a television show, or you listen to a song, or you see a celebrity who's out living their life, and being gay is the least interesting thing about their depiction and identity. Because I have to say, I don't know about you, but as a gay person, being gay is not the central theme of my life. I have a lot of hobbies and interests and friends and family and nuance and responsibilities, and very few of those come back to just being gay. You know, don't get me wrong, gay relationships are something that I'm constantly trying to come to terms with and figure out how to do. my identity is something I'm always thinking about, but it is very refreshing when a character is not just a token, but is also not existentially dealing with the idea of being gay or coming up against adversity in the TV show when you're being gay. Like they're just there being a well-rounded character. And well-rounded characters are something that Hollywood really struggles with. It's not something that they do particularly well. You know, the main character in many of these films and TV shows seems pretty rounded out. You know, they go through challenges and trials and tribulations and they come out a better person or a happier person, or in some cases they don't come out at all because it's a tragedy. But 90% of the time, I think gay characters are depicted with some struggle with being gay, and that's a real shame. I would like to give a few examples of things that I thought were handled pretty well. If you have watched the incredibly violent cartoon anime called Invincible, there's a character in it who is gay, and being gay is not their identity at all. Like it's a thing, you know, he gets a boyfriend, but there is no talk of discrimination or trying to figure themselves out or anything. They're just like an interesting character that's there, and they grow and develop and change, and you watch this character over the course of several years basically just exist. And that's really nice. I don't think that the character particularly is a token. It's interesting to note that in the original comic of this media, that I don't think the character is actually gay, but they've made them gay. But again, I disagree with the idea that it's just tokenism, because it's just a thing. Like it's just, you know, it's not made to be a big deal. It's not like we are remaking the character just because it's hip and trendy to have a gay character in it. It just feels pretty natural. Don't get me wrong, things like Love, Simon and Young Royals and Heartstoppers that all deal with the sort of coming of age, coming out of the closet kind of thing, I think those are still really, really important. I know that they were important for me growing up, but I don't think gay representation should be just exclusively relegated to that facet, if you know what I mean. Like I would enjoy more media and more things that it just is what it is. Another example was the one season flop, if you want to call it, called The Society. Again, two characters, they're gay, and it makes up a part of their dynamic, you know, whether it's sort of like a will they, won't they get together kind of thing. But specifically, the one character called Grizz is like a football player and very intelligent, very, very compassionate. And being gay is just a part of his identity. They don't make it tokenism. They don't make it anything else than just he's a character who happens to be gay, and this is realistically what he would be struggling with. Like The Society is sort of a sci-fi psychological thriller, like you kind of don't know what's happening the whole time. And Grizz being gay has no implication on the story. It doesn't affect his decision making. It doesn't it's not a big deal to his circle of relationships. Like it doesn't affect how the other characters interact with him. And I just think that those kinds of depictions are quite rare and nuanced. I think it's really hard to write a well-rounded gay character because we have all of these stereotypes and these ideas of what a gay person should be, and they should question their identity. They should do this, they should do that. Okay, there's a place for that, for sure. If you want to put a Love, Simon in there, great. But at the end of the day, representation should make sense. It should fit the narrative. It should be in there seamlessly. If you're going to have an episode or a story arc where the character does struggle with a grandparent coming to visit, or, you know, the old relationship coming back, or whatever it might be, I would just like it to be natural and doesn't feel highly produced or highly manipulated. And I think, that's kind of the perfect cinema in general, is we want to watch realistic dialogue, realistic characters going through realistic things. Um, and even in the reality television subgenre, we don't see that. Like we know that a lot of it's scripted. We know that a lot of it is manipulated to try and pull the heartstrings and do all of this stuff. But I think people really yearn for convincing characters. And at the end of the day, I want to feel convinced. And I just don't really feel that. Sorry to Hollywood, but your millions and billions of dollars spent on casting and acting and writing and plot design and set design. I'm not often convinced of a genuinely good, well-rounded gay character that is believable. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, if every single one of you says, like, I don't think you're right. Like, I think the depiction of gay people is pretty spot on right now. Awesome. Like, I would like to be wrong. I would like to just know that maybe I have an unusual take on this. But I don't think I do. I think a lot of us feel the same way, that oftentimes we're just tokens. And when you turn a canonically straight character and you make them gay just because you're like, oh, the gays will love it. We probably will love it, but at the end of the day, it's not really what we want. Like, I would like to see new characters that depict stories unique to them and that don't always just center on the whole coming out of the closet thing. I'm sure it's still helpful for people who are in the closet, but I came out of the closet a long time ago. And I would really like to think that there is life after the closet. There is life after this thing. And I want the depictions of, an old gay couple sitting on a porch, just being who they are. And there's no trauma, there's no damage. It's just, this is how it is. If you're going to depict a fictional universe, you get to make up the rules. And maybe in this fictional universe, gay characters are just totally fine. Like, they get along. You can have some strife, you can have some realness and some grit, but it doesn't always have to feel like, oh yeah, that's the gay one. Because that sucks. I watch a lot of horror movies and the gay one always dies. And why? Why? I want a final girl who's actually gay. Let's do that. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I'd love to know if you think I'm totally out to lunch. If I'm totally wrong, I completely can accept that. But yeah, it's a hard thing to do. And I know it's hard. Like, don't get me wrong. I have a very small amount of sympathy for Hollywood writers and the ability to properly portray what I feel. They can't read my mind. They can't read our minds. But I think, as we've always said, representation is wildly important. And I'd like to see it done with a lot of care and thought. That's just me. I must flamingo and talk to you later. But I hope you have an amazing day. And as always, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.